Are you going through a spiritual awakening and feeling absolutely exhausted? Has it been going on for some time? Are you worried that you'll never get your energy back? Well, spiritual awakening fatigue and exhaustion is actually completely normal, and I'm here to reassure you that you won't always feel like this. It is temporary. In this video, I'll explain when fatigue is most likely to occur during spiritual awakening, why it's an important part of the awakening process, how long it's likely to last, and what you can do about it. So let's dive in. I know from the people I coach that spiritual awakening fatigue is very common indeed. In fact, I would go so far as to say that everyone going through an awakening will experience this symptom at some point. It can range from just feeling very tired and needing to sleep more to something as severe as chronic fatigue syndrome, where you literally can't get out of bed. This is entirely normal and intended, and it helps your team facilitate your awakening, as I'll explain later in this video. But why does this happen? Why does the universe shut down our energy during spiritual awakening? Well, there's two main reasons, and I'll explain them in just a moment. But first of all, let's talk about when you're most likely to experience fatigue or exhaustion during the awakening process. It's very much a symptom of early to mid awakening, from pre-conscious awakening, i.e. before you realize you're in the process, before your epiphany, and then into the connection phase, which is when all of the weird and wonderful stuff starts to happen. And then it can continue on into the spiritual dark night of the soul. Now, you may be thinking, surely that's not early awakening. Isn't that later awakening? But actually, it is early. We enter the spiritual dark night of the soul at 50% integration with our higher self, and we exit at around 65% integration. But even when we reach 100% integration, there are other processes which need to take place afterwards to allow for ascension. So when you come out of the spiritual dark night of the soul, you're actually not even halfway through the awakening journey if we consider the whole thing end to end. And just so you know, the vast majority of awakeners, 80 to 90%, are in the early stages of awakening or the connection phase at the moment, which I know both from my coaching practice, but also from my online survey of spiritual awakeners. I'll leave a link to a video about the stages of awakening in the description if you want to learn more, and I'll also leave a link to the survey if you'd like to take part. So, quite often, awakeners have this odd disconnect where at the mental level, their mind is going through significant transformation, but at the physical level, they're exhausted and barely functioning, which is actually kind of the whole point, as I'll explain in just a moment. But you might be wondering, how long does spiritual fatigue last? And it might feel that you've been in it forever and it will never end. Well, first of all, your level of fatigue probably isn't constant. It will typically rise and fall several times. Also, if you step away from your awakening for a while, it can disappear altogether and then return when you take up the journey again. Spiritual awakening is a sensitive process, and your team take great care of you during it, especially in the early stages. They monitor you really carefully. So if you step back from 3D life and you take the time out to focus on the process, then you've created the perfect conditions for awakening, and your team will let you go full steam ahead. However, if you decide to re-engage with 3D life, to go back to work, for example, then your awakening will most likely slow down or even stop until you take a break again. And that's what I mean by stepping away from your awakening. So back to the question, how long does spiritual awakening tiredness last? Well, it's different for everyone because we go through awakening at different speeds. This is intentional and it's part of the Global Enlightenment Project rollout. We're testing lots of different types of awakening. So I can't put specific timings on it for you, I'm sorry. But generally speaking, The most intense part of the connection phase, which is usually around 9 months to a year, but can be longer, and the spiritual dark night of the soul, which usually ranges from a few months to a couple of years, are the times when you'll typically feel most tired. Some people also experience fatigue prior to their epiphany, so in very early awakening, without connecting it to spirituality or spiritual awakening. In this instance, the tiredness is usually designed to encourage us to look at our lifestyle and make healthy changes, or to take time out and do our inner work. Both of these prepare the ground for conscious awakening. Okay, in a moment, I'm going to give you some guidance on how to manage spiritual awakening fatigue. But first of all, the big question, why does it happen? Well, firstly, during the connection phase, your consciousness is massively elevated for a period of time. A significant shift occurs. And that means you start to reclaim your soul knowledge and your gifts. You're accessing 5D reality. Now, you'll also do a lot of researching at this time because you want to learn as much as possible about what's happening to you and how our universe works. So on the mental level, there's an enormous amount of throughput. You're probably also doing some inner work and changing some things in your life, like starting to move away from toxic relationships. It's a super intense time. If you're in the connection phase right now, and you probably are, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a lot for our system to cope with, so we need to rest more than we usually would. The human system, as it is in our time of history, can't cope with a full-on psychic transformation and normal 3D life simultaneously. So that's one reason why your level of spiritual fatigue will flex depending on how much time you make available for your awakening. If you rest more, you'll awaken more quickly. Now, it also works the other way round. If your team wants you to speed up, then it will impose tiredness on you, forcing you to rest. And this is one occasion that we might experience chronic fatigue-like symptoms which seem to come out of the blue for no obvious reason. Or sometimes your team might engineer a situation which means you have to take time out, like redundancy or bereavement. And bereavement is actually very common during early awakening. So this is the first reason our physical energy level drops during early awakening. We're freeing up processing space in our system. The second reason we need to rest more, and more specifically we need to sleep, is that our team is upgrading our system. And you might have heard of this as the change from 3D to 5D. Adjustments are being made at a fundamental level to allow for our ongoing consciousness shift and future ascension. We need to be able to handle a much greater throughput of energy, and also mental gates are being unlocked so we can continue to build the data pipeline between the 3D version of ourselves and our higher self. This is the integration that I was talking about earlier. For all this to happen, we must be offline, in other words, asleep. And your team will also do some healing work at this time if you need it. Many awakeners get to experience this directly in meditation or other types of trance, as I did. I experienced a sequence of pastel pink, blue and green lights scanning up and down my body, and that went on for around half an hour. So let me know if you've experienced anything similar in the comments. So what do you do if you're going through extreme tiredness or fatigue during spiritual awakening? Well, you kind of need to roll with the punches. Your team is trying to coordinate your awakening with members of your soul group and other external events. So, in a way, you can interpret your level of tiredness as an indicator of how much you need to withdraw from 3D life and focus on your journey. The great thing is, our team almost always creates the conditions for rest. We have enough money, our children are of an age where they need us less, we have a supportive partner, we have stable living conditions, etc. This is the norm, although there are a handful of outliers who are having a different kind of experience, and that's for the purposes of testing. But generally speaking, if you need to rest, you should be able to. So please take advantage of it. One of the lessons of spiritual awakening is learning to break free of the expectations of society and do what is right for us, regardless of public opinion. So If your partner has to work to support both of you for a period of time while you go through this experience, that is correct. That's how things have been arranged. In another lifetime, you'll do the same for them. Early to mid-awakening is about self-discovery, self-development, and focusing inwards. So learn to be selfish. Follow the cues that your system is giving you. Don't feel that you must work, or you must be a hands-on mum, or you must be a fully engaged partner. If you need to take time out, take time out. Also, don't worry about trying to follow a normal schedule. If you need to go back to bed and sleep at 10 a.m. for 4 hours, just do it. The more you can follow the cues, the more quickly you'll be through this part of awakening. So in the long run, it's actually more efficient to sleep. One of the goals of the Global Awakening Project is to help people awaken as quickly as possible. So I can't really stress this enough. Your team knows what you need, and it's sending you the signals. If you follow the signals, you'll awaken more quickly. Why would you want to do that? Because then you get to the fun bit. Towards the end of awakening, you finally get to decide on your mission, you get to execute it, and you get to execute it with all of your soul knowledge and power at your fingertips. I'm talking about full-on self-actualization. And if you want to learn more about the spiritual awakening journey, you'll find loads of information in this playlist.